we go. Cat 13, the lucky number 13 or the unlucky number 13. Pretty much depends on what are your strengths, because whichever stage of preparation you are, and yes, it changes now. It is no more about people who are in their beginner stage of BARC preparation. Now, we've taught verbal logic, we've taught parajumbles and summaries even to my crash batch students, my last batch students. So now there is no one at a beginner stage. Yes, people who have recently been taught verbal logic, they can claim that they are in their intermediate stage because they haven't really solved yet. Others who learned their verbal logic 3-4 months ago have already finished their marathon and advanced lectures. You have to be in the advanced stage. As I've always said, your intermediate or advanced stage is going to decide the benchmarks against which you want to perform and get a score. Yes, in the analysis, as always, I will discuss the selection and the sequencing, familiarity, what are your strengths, and lastly, what kind of time allocation should you have followed for both reading-based questions and verbal logic-based questions. What did we have? We had a format that is most likely to be this year's CAT. Total 24 questions, 40 minutes, 16 questions in RCs, 4 passages of 4 questions each, 8 questions in verbal logic, 3 parajumbles, 3 summary questions, 2 out of context questions. Overall difficulty level, honestly, I wanted to write easy to moderate, but then I ended up settling for moderate. Why? It is an irony that a test where RCs should be the strength have not turned out the strength. And that's why people who should have performed really, really well in the reading comprehension section might be simply very upset with themselves. If that is the case, then yes, you, even if this paper was easy, you will agree that you're going to call it moderate. Moderate either because you found the verbal logic section really tough, or moderate because you badly underperformed only because you could not select what to do. This was also a case which I would summarize the entire paper, all the passages in fact, I would summarize as the case where, what do you like in a pizza? Do you like the toppings? Do you like the crust? Because here, all of your passages, not all, 3 out of 4 passages, the toppings were not so attractive. The passages were not so easy to read, but the questions were very easy, which is why I said RCs are back with a vengeance. So your first passage, cognitive decline, a bomb passage for so many of you who expected an easier passage, but then nobody has asked you to attempt this passage first. Because if you read through that passage, yes, it becomes a bit difficult to comprehend, but then this passage also comes with 2 difficult questions and 2 easy questions. And they are really easy questions. So you could have taken them later also. You could have taken the entire passage later. The first inference question, never ever easy, but then please start preparing for the inference except questions, because they were there across all 3 slots of CAT last year and the preceding year also, where we had 2 slots, not 3 slots. Strengthen questions, which is not even a strengthen question. If you don't understand the question stem, why have I qualified it as difficult? Because the answer choices are not so difficult. The question stem, which of the following if false? If you don't understand that question stem, although you must have seen that question stem, in exact CAT 2, expect to see more of this question stem and similar question stems that CAT used in the last year's RCs. Expect more of them. Expect them to come up more regularly in the passages in the subsequent mocks. Then you had an applied information question, which was absolutely straightforward. It sort of compensated for the first 2. And then you had a main header question, which that's Question stem might have seemed difficult to you. Again, a question that you've already seen in exact cat 2, where all you have to do is pick up the right terms, which if put together would give you the best representation of the passage. So yes, it was a sort of a main idea or a summary question modified. Second passage was religion and medicine. Long passage, yes, a bit circular at times, moderate questions. Yep, I see 3 easy questions and 1 moderate question. What does that mean? That means be prepared. This is going to be towards the end of the analysis. This is going to come up as one of the top 2 or top 3 things that you should have done in this test. So yes, the first question was an inference, very simple question. Second was applied information, again, very, very straightforward. The next inference question had 2 close choices, so I'd rather call it moderate than call it easy. Again, in anyways, you people are not so happy that we end up labeling questions easy, because some of you have been started developing the perception that if it is cat, nothing is easy, everything is difficult. And then you had a title question, again, so straightforward. The third passage, a passage on philosophy. If you think the first passage was difficult, don't even think about this passage. Very tough to read, very long. It had all sorts of weird questions. There was an inference question that you will find easy only if you were able to survive this passage. Otherwise, God save you. In fact, there were 2 inference questions. Both of them were easy. But as I said, 3 inference questions. 2 of them were easy. 1 of them was moderate. But what can we do? What can we do? And there was one mentioned in the passage, quite contrary to expectations. This mentioned in the passage question, because usually you expect this question type to be easy. This question type in this passage there was nothing that made sense for so many of you. Fourth passage, newspaper passage. Trust me, a newspaper passage. So easy. Everything was easy. I know that there was 1 moderate question, but trust me, even that moderate is purely because the other 3 were so easy. So easy to read. 3 easy questions, the main idea question, the one that was mentioned in the passage, and a summary. 1 inference question, I repeat, not so tough to be called anything beyond moderate. Then you go to verbal logic. The first 3 questions were rearranging jumbled sentences. Yes, 2 of them were very easy. The third totally compensated for the 2 easy ones. This is a deliberate flaw that we used many times in questions, where if you treat questions as a sequence, you will suffer. You have to treat questions as independents. Just because you found 2 easy questions in rearranging jumbled sentences does not mean you will assume that the remaining questions will also be easy. No. Had you done that, you would have suffered so much in the 19th question, the one on persuasive industry workers, because there are way too many permutations in that question. Then you go to summaries. And that the last parajumble might just have given you a feeling of what comes next in summaries. 1 very difficult one. 1 difficult one. The third was moderate. I will call it moderate in comparison to the other 2, not so difficult to read. Yes, there were 2 very close choices. Your overall takeaway from the summaries might just be 0. You don't attempt any of them because you have a negative markings. There's really no compulsion to jump to summary questions. And the last 2 questions out of context. 1 moderate question. Why? Because they'll end up relating all 5. I have seen it happen with so many of the people who have seen this paper. They just think that all 5 are related and therefore they don't know what the answer is. The second was Pakistan and Russia. Multiple possible correct answers. long sentences, you might just have felt confused between not just two, but maybe three answer choices. So that's what the overall paper becomes. 12 easy, 5 moderate is the reason this paper has been called moderate. That is 17 questions out of 24. Even though I know the other 7 are either difficult or very difficult. What should you have done? Attempted all the easy ones. This was a classic example of how much are you aware of your strengths and weaknesses. And going ahead for the entire month, between now and your actual CAT, we are going to constantly throw the gauntlet at you. You want a good score? Show us the accuracy. Show us your selection skills. Make sure that you're able to identify everything that is easy. It should be easy because it is objectively easy. So 12 easy questions, 4 moderate questions. I'm saving you so much time by asking you to attempt only one difficult question out of 7 difficult and very difficult questions. If you assume that you take around 1.5 minutes for an easy question and maybe another 2.5 minutes for a moderate question, among easy and moderate, you would have only spent around 28 to 30 minutes, leaving you with a full 10 minutes in which you could have attempted one difficult question and then taken a rest for what comes up next. What should you have done? 17 attempts, 15 correct. Ignore this. 17 attempts, 15 correct. You should have started with the India, US, Iran passage. 3 minutes to read because it's a very simple passage. 4 minutes to solve. Yes, you have to get all 4 correct. I don't know how. I don't know what explanation you might give for not being able to get them correct. You have to get all 4 correct, and it is very possible in 7 minutes. The next passage should have been the second passage, religion and medicine. Probably you want to take a bit more time to read that passage. Fine with me. Maybe take an extra 1 minute. Why? Because I'm still giving you the same target, 4 attempts and 4 correct. That is how, when you go to these 2 tricky passages, cognitive decline and John Locke, you give them enough time, but you restrict yourselves to only 2 attempts and 2 correct in each of them. So from the passages, an ideal scenario would be 12 attempts, 12 correct. If you get maybe 1 odd extra incorrect, 1 or 2, you will have to compensate in the lower round. Paraexamples, give them 8 minutes, get me 3 attempts, 2 correct. I know the paraexamples were not so easy, but then you also have to understand that in paraexamples, there is no negative marking. The third paraexample was not so easy, but there is also no negative marking. Summary or out of context question, 5 minutes, get me 2 attempts and 1 correct. That would give you over a duration of 38 to 40 minutes, 17 attempts, 15 correct. Now start calculating. 17 attempts, 15 correct would put you where? It would put you at a total score of 43. A 43 should give you a 98 percentile. A 38 will give you a 95 percentile. But then, as it always happened, 24 questions, a total weightage of 72. We keep telling you the same thing, that somewhere around 25% of the section score, you should be at 80 percentile. For this paper, that has shot up significantly. Why? Because that's what happens on the CAT. For every time you come across an easy paper, your percentiles will shoot up in context of scores. So if you were still struggling with 7 or 8 correct answers in this paper and you got a low score, sorry, you should have seen the paper and realized that this is where you should have accelerated. I know most of you have developed the attitude of driving through the traffic when you are attempting your questions in EOMs, but a paper like this, a section like this should remind you that you are out of the traffic and you are on the highway and you have to accelerate. So an easy question for a change. I'm sure most of you will enjoy solving this paper all over again and doing the simulation. keep solving, keep your heads high, keep your morale high. We will see you again with the next paper. Good luck for the next EOM. Good night, everyone.
So LRD analysis for EOM 13. Certainly overall difficult section, but since we are on verge of writing CAT, hence we should be in position to face such sections also. So let's say if we'll see the different, the first set, comparatively easier than most of the rest of the sets, but certainly a little bit of time taking, but you can say that must a doable set. In such set, it is very important to arrange data properly. If you would have arranged the data properly, I think you could have solved it. And it is also very important, if you are entering into such set, better solve it fully rather than just giving a half-hearted approach. That is not going to work. But yes, comparatively doable, and you should have solved this question in the test. Because when you will see the other test, other sets, you'll have better clarity. Because now these sets, lots of data, mathematical set. So again, those of you who don't like maths, again, they may face a problem in such sets. And throughout the whole section, this whole test was a little bit inclined towards mathematical concepts. So that's why it could have created a problem of you. But yeah, it's a good section to learn. So again, lots of data here. So in case you're entering into this set, you should be very confident, okay, you're going to do it. Otherwise, there was no point entering into this set because somebody who don't like maths, who don't like numbers and all those, so again, quite possibly would have left it initially itself. So second set, again, lengthy, time taking. Third set, again, lots of data. But again, as far as solving this set is concerned, it is comparatively okay. Since none of the sets were easy, so you could have tried this solving this set. So third one. Again, lots of data. That is common across the paper. Similarly, this one more mathematical set with lots of calculation required. If you're comfortable with percentage, fractions, then only it makes sense to enter into this set. And mostly not a great percentage and fraction things, but yeah, basic level of percentage and fraction could have, you can say, helped you in this question. But yes, time taking. Now this set, again, one more mathematical set based on the time and work and efficiency concept. So again, lots of data, lots of calculations required. So one more challenging set. And guys, similarly, the last set also. Last set is, I can say, comparatively doable. If you read the content properly and the little bit of circular arrangement with extra conditions are given. So now this is comparatively easy. So now that's why, since whatever the overall feel that I got in this paper is the almost all sets were of same level. Almost all sets, because the person to person it is going to differ a little bit, because let's say I'm a person who like time and work, so obviously a set related to time and work I may like. Similarly, somebody who is good with the percentage everything, so I may like the set with the percentage. So overall, with your liking and disliking, it is going to impact a little bit, but yeah, overall all sets. So it was easy to take decision in these cases. On the basis of my likings, I could have taken, okay, out of these 6 sets, I'm going to solve these 4 sets. So selection of 4 sets out of 6 sets is a very good attempt. Very good attempt, I'm telling you. Even if your scores are less, don't worry. Try and go and learn from the sets that you were not able to solve, because this is going to add value and this is going to be your experiential learning for the coming tests. Overall, even if it was a difficult set, but again, now what I'm assuming that since you guys have taken so many tests, so now you are in better position to deal with even the difficult paper. So overall score thing is not going to change a lot. So if I have to, I kept all of them into moderate to difficult, because I really consider all of them almost of the same level. You can say that certainly this was a little bit easier. Again, this was a little bit easier. This was a little bit easier. Yes, this was certainly a little bit easier. But again, overall, I would consider all of them more or less at the same level. So it was not possible to solve all the sets. At most 4 sets with a high accuracy would have served the purpose. So again, 24 questions, 16 question is expected attempt, and your 98 percentile is, I know it is going to be less than 36 also, but again, why I kept it 36, that is on the basis of your experience. Now, after writing so many tests, you should be in the better position to deal with even the difficult paper. Because in difficult paper, it is more clear, okay, I'm not going to solve every set. So even if you would have solved the 4 sets, I think getting something around 36 is possible. So 98 percentile is going to be around nearby 36. That is why my analysis of this paper is. So thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the analysis of 2021 EOM CAT 13. We will be analyzing QA section here along with the overall analysis. This is the flow in which we'll carry out the analysis. We start with topic distribution, followed by difficulty analysis into easy, moderate, or difficult. We discuss expected items based on our difficulty analysis, and finally we discuss expected scores and the percentile equivalence. So let's start with topic distribution. This is how topic distribution looks like in EOM CAT 13. 4 questions from numbers, 3 from functions, 2 questions each from profit and loss, time and work, progression, and circle, and 1 question from basic algebra along with 1 question each from linear equation, quadratic equation, surds and indices, SICI, probability, set theory, inequalities, and triangles. So majority of the chapters are getting the representation over here. Let's move to the question mapping of easy question. There was this question from basic algebra where it was given that y plus 2 is a common factor of ay square plus by plus c and by square plus ay plus c. So according to the remainder theorem, if you put y equal to minus 2, you will be able to generate 2 equations, and because the remainder will be 0, you get 2 equations being equated to 0, and finally when you solve these 2 equations, you will be able to reach the value of 2a plus c. Next question was on inequality where it was given that x is less than 1. Now one needs to understand that when x is less than 1, x minus 1 is less than 0. So the denominator that you are seeing here in this expression will be a negative value. And when you shift it to the right hand side, the inequality reverses because as per the basic rule of inequality, when you multiply both the side by a negative number, your inequality should reverse. Okay, so if you take care of this basic condition of inequality, you will be able to solve this question. These are the only 2 easy questions in the paper. Now coming to the moderate questions, there was this question from function where it was given that ft plus f2t plus f3t is equal to gt, and g of t plus 6 is equal to g of t minus 2 plus 7, and g8 was given as 22. We had to find out g0. So too much data given, but the question could be easy if you can just catch that. Because g8 is given, somehow we need to get to g8 in terms of the equation also. So by putting t equal to 2 in the second equation, we get g8 equal to g0 plus 7, which will ultimately help you get the value of g0. A question from time and work where comparison of efficiency was to be made between 3 girls. So it was given that Ananya is 25% more efficient than Bubbly. So one can straight away assume the efficiency, Bubbly being 4, Ananya being 5. And later on it was also given that Bubbly, with the help of Cynthia, can finish the work in 2/3 of the time in which Ananya alone can do it. Okay, so we can immediately come up with the comparison which will help us with the required answer. Next was a question from linear equation. The equation was given here: 2a plus 5b equals to 103, and a and b both are greater than 0, positive integers, a being greater than b as well. So in this kind of question, one is to hit the first solution, and once you hit the first solution, the remaining values of a and b will follow a particular interval. That is, the value of a will follow the interval which is equal to the coefficient of b, and vice versa. So if you know this basic property, you should be able to find out the number of pairs. Next was a question from surds and indices where 4 raised to 6 plus 12 plus 18 plus 24. Now immediately one can realize that the powers are all multiples of 6. Right hand side was 0.0625 raised to minus 84. Now 0.0625 is nothing but 1 by 16. And when you have 1 by 16 raised to minus 84, that is nothing but 16 raised to 84, which when converted into a power of 2 gives you 4 raised to 168. Now comparing the powers, we have 6 plus 12 plus 8 summing up to be 168. So you can find out the number of terms used over there. So these are the only 4 moderate questions. Now coming to moderate but time consuming questions. This question from profit and loss, where there were 1,000 newspapers that were being produced, and there were different type of cost involved. There was a running cost, there was a other cost. So some of these costs were completely fixed, some were completely variable, and one kind of cost was partially fixed and partially variable. Considering all these 3 costs, we had to find out the overall cost price for producing 10,000 newspapers. Selling price was given 1.75 rupees per newspaper, and only 8,260 units were sold. So we can arrive at certain selling price. There was profit percentage also given, which was 30%. So we can find out the revenue. Later on, we will realize that there is a gap between the selling price and the revenue. So the additional revenue is due to the advertising revenue. So taking the difference, one can find out the advertising revenue. Now this question had too much calculation involved, and that's why it's certainly a time consuming one. Next was a question based on circle, diagram based question, where 2 chords were intersecting in a circle and a length of arc were given. Based on the length of arcs that were given, one can find out the central angle. And once you find out the central angle, you can also find the inscribed angle using the central angle versus the inscribed angle property. A question on profit and loss, where a person was buying 12 cricket balls and then he was selling first 8 balls at 20% discount. The remaining 4 balls were sold at 25% additional discount, successive discount. And finally, he realized a certain revenue and he was still making 10% profit. So you can find out CP, you can as well as you can find out MP as well. And finally, you had to find out how much percentage profit he could make if there was no discount given. Next was a question from SICI, installment based question. So 4,500 rupees were taken as loan and they were paid into 3 equal yearly, not equal, sorry, 3 installments. Total amount paid through installment was 5,400, and the installments were in arithmetic progression. So one can go by the option, eliminate a few options initially, and then work with the remaining option to calculate and find out the installment value. Next was a question based on triangle, wherein an equilateral triangle was given. From one point on one of the side, a perpendicular is dropped on the other side, and from that point, another perpendicular is dropped on another side. So we get a 30-60-90 triangle basically, and using the 30-60-90 property, we had to find out the area of the smaller triangle which is formed in the bigger triangle. Next was a question on time and work, where pipes and cisterns were given. They were attached to a tank, and there were few inlet pipes, few outlet pipes, and there was a data given which looked like a question on unitary method, wherein 9 inlet pipe, 5 outlet pipe, when they are working together, the tank is filled in 10 hours. Then there was another combination given that if 6 inlet pipe are working and 5 outlet are working, then the tank is filled in 6 hours. Okay, so one can equate this and find out the ratio of rate of work between the inlet and the outlet pipe. A question on probability was given, where 3-digit multiple of 7. So there is a 3-digit number which is a multiple of 7, and the probability that this particular multiple of 7, which is a 3-digit number, is also a multiple of 5 was P by Q. So we had to find out P by Q in the reduced form, and then summation of P plus Q was the answer that was required. A question on set theory, where one needs to find out the number of elements in union of P, Q and R. So P was the set of multiples of 4 less than 500. Q was the set of odd multiples of 7 less than 500, and R was the set of multiples of 6 less than 500. Each set has a certain number of elements. Then one need to find out how many elements are there in P intersection Q. What about Q intersection R? What about P intersection R? And what about P intersection Q intersection R? Once we get all these values, we can put those values into the formula of P union Q union R and find out the value of number of elements in that set. Coming to question mapping of difficult questions. So there was this question from circle, diagram based question again, where there was a semicircle given, there was a square circumscribing this semicircle, and there was a tangent which was drawn on the semicircle, right? Here one had to apply the alternate segment theorem and find out the required angle in the diagram. A question on numbers where 1 plus 1 factorial, 1 into 1 factorial plus 2 into 2 factorial plus 3 into 3 factorial up till 45 into 45 factorial is divided by 47, and one had to find out the remainder. So first of all, you need to simplify the numerator in specific way. Okay, and then once you get the numerator in a simplified form, one had to apply the Wilson's theorem in order to find out the remainder. A question from quadratic equation where a function was given as ax square plus bx plus c. This particular quadratic equation had two roots, alpha and beta. Both were given in certain range, like alpha was between -4 to 2, both values inclusive. Beta was between -3 and 3, both values inclusive, and alpha and beta were only integers. Now using all these data, one had to find out for how many combination your f of 0 is a negative value. So this question required some time to build the thought process, and therefore it might be considered as a difficult question. A question on numbers where unit digit of product of remaining numbers was to be calculated. So initially you had to take 100 even numbers starting with 2, 4, 6, 8. So the last number will be 200. Then you remove all the multiples of 10. After removing all the multiples of 10, if you multiply the remaining numbers, what can be the unit digit of the product? That was the question. Okay, so it will be very time consuming process, a tedious question, and difficult as well. Then there was this question from numbers. Initially it might look like a question from time and work, where two friends, Ryan Reynolds and Michael Kasprovics, were together able to complete a certain work in 12 days. We had to find out how many values of R and K satisfy this particular equation. So from here, the question gets to a next level where we had to find out the number of factors of 144, and actually number of factor of 144 will give you the exact answer. Okay, so this is something which can't be imagined that a student will be able to think of within the limited time that they have in the testing environment, and this is certainly a difficult one, provided the requirement of the question was given. A question from function where f of m plus n is equal to fm into fn and f6 is equal to 7, f minus 12 was required. So in order to get f of minus 12, one need to go to f of minus 6 first. If you want to get the value of f of minus 6, you need to obtain f of 0 first. Okay, and realizing these values will be required, and how to find out these values will be certainly a challenging task during the testing environment, and hence this can also be considered as a difficult question. A question from function where this one is based on greatest integer function, box function you can say. Okay, so box of under root of 1 plus under root of 2 plus under root of 3 up till under root of 121 was required. So here one can find out that there is a particular pattern which will work, because under root of box of under root of 1 is 1, then the box value of under root of 4 will be 2. Rest all will in between will be having a box value of 1 only. Okay, now after under root of 4, the next box value which will have an integral value will be 9. So under root of 9 will have a box value of 3, right? And in between root 4 and root 9, all the box values were equal to 2. Okay, so you can make a pattern initially, and based on that pattern you can find out the required summation. A question based on number system where it was given that there were 200 numbers, and these 200 in these 200 numbers you had to find out how many number system when converted into base 6 can have the last digit as 0 and base 7 have the last digit as 0. Now here one needs to realize that whenever you convert a number from decimal to base 6, if the last digit turns out to be 0, this means that the number will be divisible by 6. So this is the understanding that one requires in order to solve this kind of question. The question based on progression where A, B, C were given in geometric progression along with modulus of A plus B plus C is equal to 15, B was equal to 10, also B was greater than A and greater than C. So there were a lot of conditions given in the question, and we had to find out the first 4 terms of the progression and get the multiplication of them. Very difficult question. The next one from again progression, where px square plus 2qx plus r equal to 0 and dx square plus 2ex plus f was equal to 0. These two equations have a common root and pqr are given in gp. So you have to start with pqr being in gp, where you can write q square is equal to pr. Okay, and because these equations have a common root, you can somehow find out the equation, somehow find out the roots, equate the roots, and then come up with the required value. The final value, the final requirement was d by p, e by q, and f by r. Which kind of progression they follow? Are they following AP? Are they following GP? Are they following HP? That one needs to figure out. Okay. So this was the difficulty analysis. Now, based on this analysis, we come up with this particular attempt numbers. Okay, this particular number of attempts. So there were only 2 easy questions. We expect both of them should have been done. Out of 4 moderate question, majority of them, 3 of them should have been taken at least. Moderate but time consuming, there were 8 questions. We expect you to take at least 50% of these, and from difficult question you could have done around 2 to 3 questions. So to sum it up, out of 24 questions, we are expecting the ideal attempts to be somewhere around 12 or 13 probably. And if I consider 12 attempts to be ideal attempts, then I'm expecting 80% accuracy, which is somewhere around 10 correct, 2 incorrect. So 10 correct will give me 30, 2 incorrect is minus 2, 30 minus 2, 28 should be my ideal score for getting 98 percentile. So there you are. You can see 98 percentile highlighted. The score required to get 98 percentile will be 28, and you can get 95 percentile at 23, 90 percentile at 19, and 80 percentile at 14. This was surely one of the difficult papers that you must have got in recent times. But yes, such kind of questions and such kind of paper, such kind of section you might come across in the real exam also. So you should be prepared for that. Okay. Looking at 99 percentile, that is kept at 32, and 100 percentile is kept at 42. One thing you need to understand here, that when the paper looks like difficult, or when the section looks like difficult, it's difficult for everybody. Okay, and therefore the marks required to get the same percentile will drastically reduce. So you don't have to worry about that, worry about getting good marks over there. Okay, you just need to follow your natural flow, and you should be able to reach the percentile that you deserve. Now coming to the overall analysis, this is how the overall analysis looks like. We have already discussed the section-wise percentile and the scores equivalent to them. So let us pay attention to the last column over here. You can see that 80 percentile overall can be achieved at a score of 55. Now 55 in this paper is barely 18 net correct. Okay, and that is put together. That is in 3 sections put together. 90 percentile overall score required for that is 66. 95 percentile, the score required might be 79. 98 percentile is capped at 96, 99 percentile at 101, and 100 percentile at 139. So by now most of you should have got some sort of stability in terms of performance. You should keep working on it for the next month to achieve the increased stability along with a gradual improvement in the performance. So this is all from our side for analysis of EOM 13 today. Goodbye and thanks for joining.